Welcome everyone, Twiff here to present you my Forbidden Rite build and show you how to get started with it. So before anything else, I want to say that this build requires a bunch of gear to get started and at least level 80. So you will have to play with something else to begin with and then have a good amount of money to start making the build. First I will go over my tree and show you what's required for the build, then I will show you all of my gear and also what I paid for it or how I crafted it sometimes. And at the end of the video I will show you a map so you have an idea what it looks like in maps. Let's start with the tree. So you want to grab first all the power charges on the tree besides this one that you will anoint on the amulet. Then you go over the chaos nodes. So here you can take as mastery either the chaos resistance if you need it, or if you don't need it you can take wither effect, it's a good amount of damage. Then you take some critical strike, and very important to grab this mana reservation efficiency with mana reservation efficiency mastery as well. Then here you grab more power charges and endurance charge, which we will need for the starter version especially, because I'm using the Wormskin gloves to get some reduced mana cost for the Forbidden Rite and all the triggered spells. Here I took a large cluster with Touch of Cruelty, Unholy Grace and Unwavering Evil. Then you have two medium clusters with Towering Threat and Vast Power for AoE and life. And here I grabbed one Born of Chaos for now with a 3 passive to fill my chaos resistance because I had a hard time with it. Here you want to grab all the reduced mana cost, this is very important, you absolutely need it. Then you want a Glorious Vanity Timeless Jewel with Xibaqua to get Divine Flesh, it gives you more chaos resistance which you need to not kill yourself while casting. And if you can, it's very nice to have Ritual of Shadows node, but it's pretty hard to get and it's also very annoying to find. So if you don't have it, it's still fine. Then I went this way to grab more life, more endurance charge and more armor. I also took this node to gain endurance charges while casting, because you hit yourself with Forbidden Rite. So it's pretty useful, and you can take this instead of having a small cluster jewel, so it saves you a jewel socket. And then I will grab some more life and some armor and elemental res. I'm also using a Freed Motion Jewel, which is very nice to fill my dex requirements early. Unless you have a lot of dex on your gear, this will be very helpful. Let's now go over the gear. So first of all you need absolutely 2 void batteries. So I paid 45 chaos for them each. So depending on when you start on the league, it might be more expensive or cheaper. That is the same for all of my gear, so I'm just telling you what I paid for I have right now. Then the Badge of the Brotherhood I paid 75 chaos, and you need Anoint Infused to have the extra power charge. If you can also catalyst it with attributes, it will help for dexterity and intelligence. Then I just bought a helmet, so usually you want a helmet with maximum power charge and -2 enemy chaos resistance, but I didn't have the budget for it now, so I just bought a base with determination reservation efficiency to have an easier time with my auras, and I just used some Shrieking Essence of Greed until I get a decent resistance and some strength because I needed it. Then for my rings, it's very nice to have life and life gain for each enemy hit by your spells. It is not absolutely required if you have the Watcher's Eye with Vitality, but it's still very nice early to have. So for those I just use some pristine fossils with Aetheric, so dual resonator. It takes only like 10 to 15 tries to get a decent one like this. And the base of the rings are like 1.5 eggs each right now, but it might be cheaper later. So it's like 2.5 eggs per rings, but you don't absolutely need them. You can still play with some normal Vermilion ring with just some life and resistances or attributes. It can work too for the start. Then for the chest, it is absolutely necessary to have gain frenzy charge on hit, because you need all those frenzy charge to have a bunch of cast speed and work with the badge of the Brotherhood. Then you want to awaken orb that with spell critical strike chance. So here I have elevated because it was very cheap early. The Maven orb were like 70 chaos, so I bought a bunch and made the chest pretty early in the league, but now it's getting more expensive. So if you don't elevate it and just awaken it with normal spell crit, it's still fine. And then you just add what you can on the prefix with some life. So for the gloves, I usually use Hands of High Templar with spell crit and despair on hit. But since this is the budget version and you have some mana problems and stuff, I went for this Weinstein gloves with despair on hit. It gives some life and reduced mana cost per endurance charge. So you have a total of 20% reduced mana cost because you have 5 endurance charge, and it also gives rampage, which is pretty nice. For the belt, I just bought a rare Stygian Vise with life and fill my resistances with what I needed. And for the boots, you absolutely need elusive on critical strike to work with the badge of the Brotherhood. Usually you want to awaken that with Tailwind, but same as the helmet, I didn't have the budget for that for now, so I just made some elusive boots. So it is very important that you get this Labyrinth enchantment with reduced mana cost of skills if you've been hit recently. So what I did is that I bought a pair of 2-tone boots that already had the enchant, so I bought the pair for 50 chaos. Then I used a Redeemer Exalted Orb. It was like 75 chaos. So I had my base with the enchant already here, and then I just spammed some essences for movement speed. So what I've done is try to get a tier 2 or better life with movement speed, and you want an open prefix and an open suffix. So you need open prefix to craft elusive with harvest, reforged crit, and you need an open suffix because for that you want to use prefixes cannot be changed. So I had movement speed with tier 2 life, open prefix, regen life, and the fire res, and then I crafted prefixes cannot be changed and went harvest with reforged crit for guaranteed elusive on crit. So those boots cost me like 3.5x total. They are pretty decent for now. Quickly going over my flask setup. So you want a Dying Sun. If you cannot buy one, but it's very cheap, so you should be able to buy one, but you can replace this with a life flask. Then I went quartz flask because just I don't like getting stuck on enemies, but you can replace that with something else if you like. Then quicksilver, granite and diamond flasks. So I would say those 3 flasks are the very important ones. So quicksilver, granite and diamond. Especially the granite, you really want the armor. And for the suffixes I went for armour. This is very important to get a big molten shell shield and some nice reduction. Then cast speed just because I got it, but it's not necessary, you don't need that. Reduced curse effect because it's always nice to have, and increased critical strike chance. For the prefixes, if you can, try to get chance to gain a flask charge when you deal a critical strike, because you deal a ton of critical strike because you hit so many times. It will fill up your flask so fast. But I couldn't get it on all the flasks for now, so I just took what I got. A last thing before I'll show you a map. Let's go over my gem setup. So for the chest you want Forbidden Rite with Spell Echo, Power Charge on crit, increased critical damage, Void Manipulation, and Anomalous Greater Multiple Projectiles. So this is very important to have the 20% reduced mana cost. It will help a ton early. It's a bit expensive right now, it's like 2x, but you really need it. Then on the helmet I went Anomalous Onslaught. This is nice to have Onslaught even on boss fights. Greater Multiple Projectiles, Ball Lightning and cast when damage taken. So you want to keep all your cast when damage taken level 1 to cast them as often as possible. On my left wand I have Divergent Berserker, so this gives a bunch of movement speed, less damage taken, and more spell damage if you have the Diversion version. Vitality level 1 or more if you can, if you have enough mana, but it's nice to keep at least like a good 100 mana for the start at least. And Flame Dash. On my gloves I put Divergent Purifying Flame with Molten Shell, Divergent Warlord's Mark, and cast when damage taken. If you can get a white socket, it's pretty nice to swap Warlord's Mark for Assassin's Mark if you want more damage, but I couldn't get it for now, so I just set with this. On my other wand I have cast when damage taken with Summon Stone Golem and Arcane Surge, so this is not an absolutely required setup. I don't think many people plays this, but I just like to have the little bit of regen and the Arcane Surge buff. And then to finish, on my boots I have my auras, so Determination, Purity of Elements, Enlighten and Zealotry. So if you have Enlighten level 2, it's still fine. I had it at the beginning, I had like 70 mana left, it was fine. And I want to add Defiance Banner later, but for now I don't have enough mana reservation for that. So before going to maps, I will do a quick recap of what's absolutely necessary to get started with the build. So the most important thing is to have your mana fixed, because else it will cost too much mana and you won't be able to play. So for that you want the Wyrmskin gloves, you want the Anomalous Greater Multiple Projectiles, then you want both of your rings to have minus mana cost with non-challenging skills. Then you also want this wheel with the life and reduced cost of skills, and the boots enchantment with reduced mana cost if you have been hit recently. So all of my gear right now cost about 30 exalts, and I would say 25 to 30x is the really minimum requirement to get started with the build. So yeah, let's jump into a map right now to show you how the build works on a budget, because yes, 20x or 30x is still the budget version. You cannot really play with under 20x budget, don't try it, it will not feel good, I'm telling you. So let's see. So this is a tier 16 red map with some rare mods, and I'm level 87. So yeah, that's it guys. I think the build is very nice already. It feels pretty tanky even though I have only 4.5k life, but I have a bunch of armor and some nice res already with the Divine Flesh. And the DPS feels pretty good, to be honest, even though I have some very budget-ish gear. I hope those video was helpful and show you what the build can do on a more budget version. And if you have any question, let me know in the comments. And if you want to see more about this build, please subscribe. See you guys in the next video.